Why do we have to hear about your fucking sex life? 2 months ago, we were not talking about Draymond Green being the defensive player of the year. And suddenly, he's campaigning for himself because if the league knows what's best for them, they want the Lakers to come out of the Western Conference. The biggest robbery of them all is Bradley Beal. Charles Barkley left once again with no rings. Welcome to the Ashley Neville Show. I am your host, Ashley Neville, where hot takes meet deep conversations. If you know me, love myself a nice little hot take here and there. I really like to say how it is, but I also like to go deeper and talk about what goes on behind the scenes in sports media and marketing, and also talk with those people who control everything that happens behind the scenes. So today, it's just going to be me. There's a lot going on in the NBA right now. I don't even know where to start. But I think first things first, we're going to talk about the Denver Nuggets firing their head coach, Michael Malone, who won a championship with them in 2023. Now, there's been different reports coming out of Denver. So apparently, Michael Malone and the GM didn't see eye to eye, because Michael Malone was playing Russell Westbrook heavy minutes down the stretch when the GM was like, you should be playing Jalen Pickett, who was drafted in 2023, round 2, 32nd draft pick. Bro's only averaging 4 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists per game. So I can understand wanting to give more minutes to a younger guy, allowing him to get some playing time, but Russell Westbrook's been in the league forever, and he ain't no scrub. Now, what I will say is Russell Westbrook has cost them some games by making really bad decisions. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Russell Westbrook. He's done a lot for the game. He's an MVP. He's always in contention in the playoffs. However, he just doesn't have a lot of winning qualities. And unfortunately, when you're playing basketball, the whole goal is to win. So there was one game against the Timberwolves. He made a couple awful plays down the stretch where he made an erratic layup attempt, missed it, and then at the other end, fouled the guy, and they ended up losing the game. So I will say, again, this is something that's very well known throughout the league. It's not just me saying it. Russell Westbrook is a very erratic player. He doesn't know how to win or close out games. But he will, give you 15 points off the bench if you need it. But I can understand why the GM might be looking at Michael Malone and being like, why do you keep riding with this player when he's losing you games? But on the flip side, some more issues that I'm hearing about coming out of Denver is that some players didn't like how Michael Malone was harder on them than he was on Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. I mean, why are you gonna be hard on a guy that's giving you a triple-double every single night, who's winning you the games? Unfortunately, this is how it works in any level of society. If you're a superstar player or a superstar performer and you're already performing at a high level, the bar is already set. You've already set the standard. So you're gonna be treated differently. And I know that this is the same issue in Miami where Jimmy Butler, what I was hearing behind the scenes with Jimmy Butler is that it got to a point where he felt that he was being treated the same as other players. And when you get to a certain level in your NBA career, especially when you've made it to the finals, especially when you're in contention every year in the playoffs, especially when you've won MVPs or championships, you're not going to be held to the same standard as just your average player. And unfortunately, when you got a guy like Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray who have both won NBA championships, who have played out of their mind the second half of the season, I'm sorry, but they don't need to show up to their workouts at the same time that everybody else does. That should be motivating you to want to work harder so that coach can maybe get off your back. But, I mean, the fact that these players these days are so fucking soft is alarming to me. This whole generation of these younger kids thinking that they don't need to be held accountable when they're losing games, they're not watching game film, they're not getting back on the defensive end. I mean, Michael Malone holds his players to a high standard. And if you want to be great, Number one, your coach shouldn't have to hold you to that standard. You should be holding yourself to that standard. But when you have a coach that actually cares, I mean, Michael Malone doesn't just care about you as a player, but he cares about his guys as people. He traveled all the way to Serbia to go be with Nikola Jokic and his family in the offseason. He stood by Jamal Murray's side when he tore his ACL. When Jamal Murray was questioning whether they're going to view him as damaged goods and want to trade him, he ensured Jamal, we're going to stick this out with you. We're going to give you everything that you need to get back on the court. And you repay him by firing him just because they lost a couple games. He lost 4 games in a row. But how much of that is the coach's fault? We got to start pointing the finger at these players because these guys are making multi-million dollars. These guys are making so much money. God forbid you hold them accountable because you want to fucking win. But unfortunately, we always throw the coaches under the bus. That is the reality of the situation. Players have taken over the league. It's a player-run league now. The coaches don't have a say. But I can understand why even, Jokic has complained about the defensive effort. And again, defense comes down to heart. Defense comes down to how much effort you're going to put in. Watch the game film, go out there and play hard. It's very simple. You can't necessarily control the shots that you're going to make, right? You can have an off night, but you can't control the level of defense that you're providing every night. And when I watched that Warriors game the other day, I knew the Nuggets were in trouble because the Warriors were just stripping the ball right out of their hands. Not a care in the world. They had 26 turnovers in that game, and it cost them the game. That is unacceptable when you're in contention to potentially win a championship this year. You're battling for the 2nd or the 3rd seed, and then you lose 4 straight. Unacceptable. But I'm not going to put Michael Malone as the reason for why the Nuggets have lost 4 straight. He might have lost the locker room, but if I'm a coach and I have a high standard and I lose the locker room because these guys don't want to be held accountable, so be it. I wouldn't want to fucking coach them anyway. But I don't know where these players have come from to think that they could just go out and play however the fuck they want. Like, who are you to think that you could do whatever you want? The only guys on that team who get a pass for me are like Nikola, Jamal, MPJ, Aaron Gordon. But even some of those guys I just named, they're not trying hard on the defensive end. It's unacceptable. So right now, I just think the timing of the firing was a little bit crazy. They had only 3 games left in the season, right before the playoffs. I don't know what you're trying to gain by doing that. It seemed a little emotional. Not sure if they actually thought this one through. But I don't know if they discussed with players beforehand. I don't know. I don't think Jokic would sign off on something like this. That was his guy. But at the end of the day, the NBA is always going to throw their coaches under the bus. It's never going to be about the players. But the Houston Rockets, okay? ESPN and other outlets are talking about everybody else, Lakers, Warriors, but they're not talking about the Houston Rockets. And I feel like this organization doesn't get any respect. They have clinched the number 2 seed, okay? They had it at the beginning of the season. They fell off a little bit, and they managed to win 3 in a row and have been beating some really good teams as of late in the Western Conference, mind you. They absolutely annihilated the Thunder, 125-111 the other day. And then they managed to beat the Warriors 106-96. I know y'all are sleeping on them. Oh, they're a young team. I'm sick of hearing that as an excuse. Because when you could come out and beat 2 top teams like that, who are all in contention to potentially win it all this year, it says a lot, especially at the end of the season. You want to look at the teams right now that are finishing out this season strong heading into the playoffs. Because to me, that's their identity right now. And you could say everything you want about Jalen Green. He's a star. They got 8 guys that are averaging double figures in scoring. They got Alperen Sengun, who's an all-star this year. He's averaging 19 points, 10 rebounds. You also got another big man, Amen Thompson, who is averaging 14 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. I forgot to mention Alperen Sengun's also averaging 5 assists per game. This team plays together. Yeah, they're a young team, but so is OKC. Could say the same thing about them, and they're the number 1 team in the Western Conference right now. You got 2 veteran players in Fred VanVleet, who won a championship, so he knows what it takes to get there. And then you got another guy like Dylan Brooks, who's the anchor on the defensive end. Every team needs a player like that. Houston is ranked 3rd in defensive efficiency right now. And you could tell by how they're playing right now, they're knocking these teams out. So y'all need to stop sleeping on Houston. Because when I look at these standings right now, especially in the Western Conference, it's anybody's game. It's fair game right now. I mean, my heart wants to take Lakers or Warriors just because of not just the star presence, but the veteran leadership on both of those teams. The Lakers, you got LeBron, Luka. You could never count them out. They've been playing exceptionally well. I need to admit I was wrong about JJ Redick as a head coach. He's gotten his guys to buy in, and he really understands the game. And it's about time we allow younger coaches to get an opportunity in this league. Because as you notice, they keep recycling the same old guys over and over and over again and getting absolutely nowhere. Doc Rivers, only 1 championship since 2008, yet this motherfucker keeps getting jobs left and right. You've got Coach Bud, who completely destroyed the Phoenix Suns this season. He keeps getting jobs. He only had 1 championship in his whole coaching career. And you think that's going to be the guy to take you to the promised land? The Suns are not even going to make the play-in, and that's your guy. So my point is, JJ Redick has done an exceptional job with the Lakers. They're 3rd in the Western Conference right now. There's something to be said about a player's coach, someone who can really get through to his guys, someone who actually played at a high level, who understands the game inside and out. He's done great. So, yeah, you can't count the Lakers out. And then the Warriors. I mean, look what they've been able to do since acquiring Jimmy Butler. You got Jimmy. You got Steph Curry. You got Draymond Green. I mean, that's a nice big 3 right there. You can't count them out. And they've been playing with a different level of intensity on the defensive end, too. But Steph's been a little off. Scoring-wise. So we'll see how that plays into the playoffs. I mean, the playoffs are always a different beast. Everyone always steps it up. I think Steph's really going to play to his standard. But also brings me to my next point. And this could be a little bit controversial. But 2 months ago, we were not talking about Draymond Green being the defensive player of the year. And suddenly he's campaigning for himself to be Defensive Player of the Year. You guys were about to miss the playoffs before acquiring Jimmy Butler. And suddenly, you think you're deserving of Defensive Player of the Year. Your team is 6th in the West. And again, weren't doing shit until Jimmy Butler got there. Why are we not talking about Evan Mobley, Amen Thompson, Alperen Sengun? I don't see Draymond even in the top 5 on most defensive categories. So what are we talking about here? Maybe other years he deserved it. But this year? I mean, Wemby was going to be a clear lock for it, but he got hurt, so he's automatically disqualified. What about Luguentz Dort and his defense on the perimeter? Why are we always, when we're talking about Defensive Player of the Year, why is it always a big man? Why aren't we giving credit to a guy like Luguentz Dort, who's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league? And he's on the number 1 team in the Western Conference. So we talk about MVP, and the MVP has to be, goes to the guy that's the best player on the best team. But Defensive Player of the Year, we don't have that same criteria or qualifications? It's a little interesting. But Draymond, I mean, you can have him in that category, I guess, but I'm not going to give it to him. I mean, this guy's elbowing players, talking shit to the refs, being dirty. You think that qualifies good defense? I mean, that one game against the Rockets in which the Warriors lost, I mean, he was being an absolute fucking menace. I mean, the refs were telling him to calm down. He goes, well, call the fouls then, talking hella shit to the refs. He eventually got a technical, but the way that he's able to talk to these refs and get away with it is astonishing to me. Because if it was anybody else, they'd be thrown out of the fucking game. So, why do I think that is? Well, Draymond has a reputation for being crazy, getting thrown out of games for strangling players, throwing them to the ground, kicking them in the balls. And I think the refs are scared to throw him out of games because the narrative is going to be, oh, the refs just threw him out of the game because of his reputation. That's what it's going to be. So now Draymond pushes his luck, right, and thinks that he can talk to the refs however he wants, elbow players, be physical and aggressive, and thinks that he's just going to get a pass. Because, oh, then I'm going to go on my little podcast after the game, and I'm going to go on a smear campaign against the refs. Listen, the refs aren't perfect, right? But the refs have a fucking job to do. And they try to do it as best as possible. Yes, there's some calls that are absolutely insane. But you can't be letting Draymond Green talk to you like that. Okay? You just can't. It is what it is. But he thinks he gets a pass because he's a veteran in this league. He thinks he gets a pass because he'll just smear them and paint them in a bad light. But it's absolutely unacceptable. And to me, that's not good defense. Another team I want to talk about is the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay? They got Bobby Portis back. He had a 25-game suspension or something like that. They went on a 40-13 run to beat the Timberwolves on Tuesday night. Now, when we're talking about the Eastern Conference right now, I'm still taking the Boston Celtics to come out of the Eastern Conference. I'm the most confident with them. They won a championship last year, and they still have their same roster. And they're loaded with talent coming off the bench, too. Not just the starting five, but coming off the bench. Superstars. Anyone could take over at any given night. I do think a sleeper team could be the Milwaukee Bucks. Why? I mean, you got Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, who the fuck can guard that? Right? This guy can get to the basket, closing his eyes. Bobby Portis is back. And then you got Kevin Porter Jr., Kyle Kuzma, Brook Lopez, and a couple other guys who've, they're veterans in this league already. So I think the Bucks, especially if they can get Damian Lillard back, I don't know how long he's going to be out for. They said that he's progressing pretty well, but who knows, right? I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to surprise a lot of people this year. I think they're finally healthy, and that's what people don't understand when it comes to the playoffs. Yeah, there's some luck involved, but health is the number one factor of it all. Who is the most healthy when it's all said and done? And I think right now Boston and Cleveland are healthy. I think those are the teams to beat in the Eastern Conference. That's who I'm going to take in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I will say the Milwaukee Bucks are a tough team. I just don't know about their depth. It's my only question mark with them is their depth and if they can't get Damian Lillard back in time. The New York Knicks been struggling defensively. I do think they played very well against the Boston Celtics on Tuesday night in overtime, but were not able to close the deal. You got Karl Anthony Towns, you got OG, you got Jalen, you got Josh Hart. I mean, they have a pretty solid squad. And they're pretty loaded, I would say, too. But defensively, I think it's going to be tough for them to beat the Celtics or the Cavaliers. But I think the safe bet, if I'm betting on this, I'm taking the Boston Celtics. And then out of the West, this is crazy because at the beginning of the season, I was going to say Oklahoma City out of the West. Because they're the number one team in the league right now, 65-14 record. But we all know just because you have the best record doesn't mean you're automatically going to win the championship, right? But I will say they have been struggling as of late, and they're struggling at the wrong fucking time. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hasn't been getting those foul calls like he's used to. Going into the playoffs, they let these guys play. They let it get a little bit more aggressive. They let things go. And Shai hasn't been getting calls. There was one game. He didn't go to the foul line once. You're telling me a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who plays the way he plays, drawing contact, he doesn't get the foul calls? You can't go from sending a guy to the line 8 to 10 times to none. Let's just be real, okay? Let's just call it what it is. You can't just pick and choose when you want to make the calls and when you don't want to make the calls. I can understand you want to let these guys play, but going from 8 to 10 to none? Please. Looks like there's another agenda there. And I do think the media dictates a lot of this, right? The more we sit and talk shit about how the refs are calling the games and how, oh, it's not fair, he's getting to the line this number of times. I know the league listens to all of that. And then Adam Silver probably makes a call down to the referees and says, listen, man, you got to start letting them play. But I always want to know why we can't just let them play throughout the whole season. You talk about the NBA ratings are down because these guys don't play defense. And, oh, the numbers are up at the three-point line and we're sick of these guys jacking up useless threes. But then you don't want to fix it. You don't want to bring the intensity up on the defensive level only until the playoffs. But you want people to watch your product in the regular season. So just tell me how that makes sense, right? So I do think OKC right now has been struggling at the wrong time. And they've been losing games that they should have won. And it's going to be challenging for Shai in the playoffs because he isn't going to be getting a lot of those calls. He kind of reminds me of James Harden the year he won the MVP. I mean, he was averaging similar numbers in the 30s. He was the leading scorer in the NBA. And the way he was able to draw fouls, get to the line, draw contact, he was different. I mean, James Harden was at the line at a high clip. And his game is very similar to what I'm seeing with Shai Gilgeous when it comes to drawing fouls, getting to the line, and just being a smooth operator out there on the court. I mean, that's what I love about Shai is, like, he's not just jacking up threes. Like, he's actually taking intentional shots, whether it's mid-range, whether it's driving to the cup. He's got a real smooth game. And to me, he's one of, the best players in the league right now. But you got to be able to figure out how to score without needing to get to the line. And I will give him some credit because last year in the playoffs, he was still averaging 30 points and he wasn't getting to the line as much. So it's just something to look out for. I don't know if OKC is going to win it all this year. I mean, I would like someone different, but you can't rule out the Warriors and you can't rule out the Lakers. Those are two teams that I'm looking at when it comes to veteran leadership, when it comes to how they're playing right now toward the end of the season, and then their defensive effort. I think those two teams are the ones to look out for. The Denver Nuggets, I was going to take them, but firing your coach with 3 games left in the regular season, 4 straight losses, struggling on the defensive end, too much drama going into the playoffs because I'm just going to rule the Denver Nuggets out. And I know they got the MVP on their team or one of the MVPs, but I'm ruling them out. Houston Rockets, don't think they have enough depth. So it's between 3 for me. OKC, Lakers, Golden State Warriors. I do have to see how these matchups are, though. Because right now, if they were to play, Oklahoma City Thunder would be playing against the Timberwolves. That's a tough, tough matchup. Now, I would be shocked if Oklahoma City does get knocked out of the first round. If the number 1 seed gets knocked out of the first round, I would be very shocked. But a lot of these games, it all depends on matchups, right? I mean, playing the Timberwolves in the first round, to me, that's tough. So it would be very surprising to me if a number 1 seed lost to an 8. But these matchups are tough. I'm still going to take OKC to win that one. And then you got the Rockets potentially playing the Grizzlies. I think the Rockets are going to take that one. The Lakers would face the Golden State Warriors in the first round. Now that's going to be a tough, tough matchup. And that's going to be a matchup that no one wants to see lose. I would love to see the Lakers Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, but it's not going to happen. But if I had to take the Lakers versus the Warriors, now that's a tough matchup. That's going to 7 games. Shit. I don't even know who I would choose with that one, to be honest with you. Damn. Because I think the NBA also really wants to see a Lakers-Celtics finals just because of the nostalgic feel to it, because they've always been rivals, you know? So I could see the first round with the Lakers-Warriors having some very questionable calls. Because if the league knows what's best for them, they want the Lakers to come out of the Western Conference. So if they end up coming out of the Western Conference, I'm going to feel like the script was written before the playoffs started. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers come out. Honestly, I think they have a very strong chance. And I also think the Golden State Warriors have a strong chance. But I have to see how these matchups are. But these are so hard to predict. Like, I wouldn't even want to put money on any of this shit because anything can happen. But the refs might be playing, one side or another side. This segment's called Sideline Strategies. And I like to touch base on what's going on behind the scenes and different marketing tools that the NBA is using to not just further their brand, but align with companies that align with their mission. So number one, I thought this was just a brilliant marketing strategy, having Charles Barkley on Pop the Balloon. Tapping into an existing narrative and looking at areas of opportunity that that people are already watching. Pop the Balloon has strong brand recognition and engagement and an established association. There's no guesswork. You already know people like this. I mean, she got signed on Netflix. Netflix took over Pop the Balloon. So it's already a good positive audience reaction. And it's not necessarily like you're building off of somebody else's brand, but utilizing it and figuring out a way to incorporate it with yours. Now you have a big organization like NBA on TNT with a big name like Charles Barkley, a Hall of Famer. And then you got a show like Pop the Balloon, which is extremely relevant in Gen Z culture. And that's the type of audience that you're trying to bring to your sports league and to your organization. So I thought this was a brilliant marketing strategy. It ends up Charles Barkley left once again with no rings, unfortunately. But I thought this was a brilliant marketing strategy to allow two worlds to collide. The next marketing strategy that I thought was absolutely brilliant was LeBron James is the first NBA player to get his own Ken doll. Now, I already know what people are going to do when talking about the GOAT debate. They're going to disqualify him for this, but this is actually a very smart move on LeBron's part because it not only expands his brand beyond basketball, but it also diversifies his audience. So now you take a look at what the NFL did to bring Taylor Swift into the mix when she was dating Travis Kelce. I kind of thought that was a PR stunt, personally. There's a lot of questionable things that went on behind the scenes and some very interesting conspiracy theories on that. I won't get into it. But if you want to reach more women, that is the best way to do it. LeBron getting his own Ken doll, bringing Taylor Swift to the mix. So I think it's tapping into an audience that's far beyond basketball. It's also a positive representation for young boys. And having a black Ken doll modeled after LeBron, I think this is absolutely amazing. And it also shows that men can play with dolls too, okay? And representation does matter. So I thought this was a really big power move. And also synergy with Space Jam. So he already has a toy with Space Jam. So now there could be potential collabs in the future with that. It keeps him relevant in retirement. Because, I mean, who wouldn't want this Ken doll? It has Jordans, has a nice outfit on. I mean, I kind of want to get this Ken doll, I'm not even lying. And the merch sales are going to go crazy. So when you're trying to think about global reach and you think about Barbie, you think about Ken, I mean, that brand's been around forever. So if you want to really expand and grow your platform, like this was a really good way, I think, for LeBron to do that. Because again, you're tapping into a totally different audience. You're tapping into women. You're tapping into kids. You're tapping into young boys who want that representation in a doll. So I thought this was a brilliant move. I know some of you guys are going to make fun of LeBron for doing this, but he's a marketing genius. This was marketing 101 to me. Because you're going to get people that want to root for LeBron now. You're going to get little girls being like, oh my God, I want to watch LeBron play. I mean, this is a powerful move. And I think more people need to start thinking outside the box like this. So for those of you who are making fun of it, I mean, this is $1 billion move right here. I mean, the sales are going to be crazy. And again, like LeBron is a very good role model in the community. And I think this is going to be great for him. Another Sideline strategy bust. So apparently the Dallas Mavericks try to line up sponsorship deals with a few of Luka's brand partners for his return to Dallas as a Laker, and his camp rejected the idea. Why the fuck would the Dallas Mavericks think that Luka or his brand partnerships want anything to do with the organization after how they fucking treated him? But it's just like these companies aren't like thinking clearly. What made Dallas think that his partners are going to want to work with them when he comes back to Dallas? So I think it's really important when you're thinking about companies that you want to work with or have brand partnerships with, you need to think about this strategically. What value would those companies have in working with Dallas? It's a bad look. To me, it just shows me that you just care about making money and you don't really care about Luka's return to Dallas after everything he did for your organization. Next up, when it comes to brand strategies and marketing, the NCAA failed to market their players and product like they used to. The fact that casual fans only know Cooper Flag in the NCAA, but they can name 5 to 10 women in women's basketball is a problem. Now, before all y'all say, oh, players are just moving around at such a fast pace, it's so hard to build brand and fan loyalty to a player. If a player is doing everything he can for his own brand, it shouldn't matter where he plays. Take a look at Haley Van Lith. Millions of followers. She was on Sports Illustrated cover. She made it to the Elite 8 with 3 different teams. And her brand didn't take a hit. So what's going on when it comes to men's versus women's basketball, and why women seem to be taking over in marketing? I think women are easier to deal with. Their egos aren't inflated. They're happy to take opportunities. They're excited for the opportunities, and they're not afraid to show it on their platforms. Men think they're too good for it. Men got egos. They think they're too good for it. They think, oh, they should just be paying me for my name, image, and likeness, and I shouldn't have to do any work. That's not how a brand partnership works. But I will say the NCAA really needs to do a better job at helping with the marketing and branding strategies for not just their league, but for the players alone. And I had some ideas. Number 1, create a player-first NCAA content network. These players aren't going on enough podcasts. I know you want to keep the main thing, but when you're a public figure, there's so many other elements that come into play here. And you should want to build your brand off the court as well, because not all of y'all are going to make it in the NBA. So what do you do after? You got to be able to utilize the NCAA, the teams that you're playing for, who have billions of dollars at your disposal. Also, you're going to be on live television. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of your face being seen on live television, but also take advantage of the fact that you have a cell phone. You have an iPhone. You could be posting consistently and working with brands to build your name up. So I think having a digital platform on YouTube run by players for players with the NCAA support would be really big for the NCAA. Because again, the NCAA needs to control their own narrative and be more than just a league and actually be a platform. Don't just allow the media outlets to control and dictate narratives when it comes to players. I just felt like the NCAA really lacked when it came to storytelling. We also need to start promoting and being excited for the fact that players can go to different schools and transfer. We need to normalize it as being a part of the grind by creating a new player identity group, right? Legacy League, players who played for 2+ schools, build a movement around adaptability, resilience, and betting on yourself. So instead of looking at players hopping around as something negative, I think we could spin it into something positive. And that's what good public relations specialists do. I think we can do a style file. I mean, we're always interested in watching NBA players walking into the games and seeing what they're wearing. I mean, this could be a really good collab with different companies who are dressing players. We want to lean into fashion, lean into individuality, bring the tunnel walk to college. So what you see that works in the NBA, bring it down to the NCAA. What about rivals turn roommates? Why are we not talking about guys who used to play against each other who are now playing with each other? I mean, that could be fun. Future transfer portal guys who used to play against each other, now turning competition into their connection. Show how athletes grow and evolve. I mean, I think that stuff's pretty interesting. I would watch it. Player-run social takeovers. Why doesn't the NCAA rotate weekly, go to different teams, different schools, and allow their accounts to be taken over by certain players, especially when you're trying to highlight a game of the week? Let them post their way. I think that'd be really fun for the NCAA to showcase different players, different schools each week. I mean, it's a long season. You got the time. The NCAA needs to have 2 rules in place that I think could fix some of the chaos going on with players consistently moving around. Now, I'm okay with a player wanting to control his own destiny. And I love the fact that these guys are able to get paid now because when they weren't able to get played, they weren't able to take on any other jobs. They were just there on a scholarship. And it was all about basketball. Like, you don't got time for anything else. So I do think the NCAA needs to implement a couple rules in addition to these marketing strategies that I really feel could help make a difference in the NCAA's branding. And it's not just about putting your logo everywhere. It's about actually creating meaningful stories around these guys and spinning everything in a positive light. NIL is a positive. Players being able to control their own destinies is a positive. It's not always negative. But I do think if they want to fix some of these rules with players hopping around too much, I think, number one, players should have to sign to 2-year agreements with the team. And there has to be some sort of a buyout clause if they want to leave after a year. I think this makes the most sense. Unless a player wants to be one and done, there might be some rules around that. But I think that the NCAA needs to have more authority and they need to have more control over the rules. Because right now, it's chaotic. I mean, these teams are all over the place. There's no rules. There's no one overseeing what's going on. And the NCAA now is being run like a professional sports league. I mean, these guys are getting paid. They're professionals now. So there needs to be some oversight and some rules. And I do think 2-year player contracts would make the most sense. I think it would help schools plan their rosters, NIL deals, know what's coming in, know what they can afford. And I think it would also help the fan base being able to emotionally invest in players. The second thing I think the NCAA really needs to do is reward these guys with a graduation bonus for players who stay with the same school for 4 or more years. We need to incentivize these guys for not leaving and understand that there's going to be a nice pool of money for you once you graduate. Maybe give them a $25,000 to $50,000 bonus after they graduate. And I think this matters for one of a few reasons. We're recognizing loyalty and we're rewarding it. It also shows a player's academic commitment that he actually cares about graduating. It's not just about basketball or football. It adds incentives for them to stay the course, right? Especially if you're not going to go pro. Again, a lot of these guys aren't going to go pro. So what can we do to help them get on their feet after they graduate? If they decide to stay with the school for 4 years, $25 to $50K. So I think those are 2 rules that the NCAA need to consider fixing. And last but not least, I know Shaquille O'Neal went viral for saying that Ben Simmons should be arrested for all the money he's taken over the years and robbing the NBA for not playing and not winning anything. And I know we all had high expectations for Ben Simmons, and he just did not pan out. But I think the biggest fucking robbery of it all is Bradley Beal. What he did to the Phoenix Suns. I mean, this guy should be fucking arrested. He's making $50 million. He has one of the highest paying contracts in the league. And nothing to show for it. And a no trade clause at that. But what's even worse is that the Suns would agree to a deal like this. Being trapped with a no trade clause. Bradley Beal, the only other player in the NBA who has a no trade clause is LeBron James. You really think Bradley Beal is deserving of that? When you take a look at the numbers, take a look at how many playoffs he's played in and how many championships he's won. 0. He scored 1 point the other game. 1 fucking point. And he's worthy of being one of the most highest paid players in the league with a no trade clause. And this dude can't even score more than 1 point. And he's just sitting around like, I'm good. You know, he knows all the people that are talking shit about him. He doesn't give a fuck. He's like, I'm in Phoenix. Nice weather, year round. I got all this money coming in. No trade clause. I'm good. He doesn't give a fuck. He's set for life. Absolutely insane. And the Suns organization, this just goes to my one last point that I want to make. And this goes with any organization. Just because you are a leader or an owner or a founder of a team, because you have billions of dollars, doesn't mean you know what the fuck you're doing internally. Doesn't mean you know the game, because you don't. You never played at a high level in your life. And this is the problem the Suns had with Robert Sarver, the owner before, who got kicked out from being an owner because of his other bullshit. He was trying to go into locker rooms and tell players how to play. And then he was trying to tell coaches how to coach. And sometimes you just need to learn how to stay in your fucking lane. You might be good at money and managing money. You made billions of dollars in your career. That's great. But you got to hire people who know what they're doing when it comes to basketball. And that's the same problem that right now we're quite frankly seeing with the Suns once again with Matt Ishbia. Some of the moves and the plays that he's made the last couple of years completely fucked up the franchise. And when you got a star player talent like Devin Booker, who only comes around once in a lifetime, you do whatever you can to fucking win. And he was finally right there. Made it to the finals a couple years ago, and you blow that whole fucking team up. Unbelievable. And Devin Booker, smiling through it all. Because he wants to be here, and he wants to win, and he wants to be that player that stays with the same team for his whole career, but I won't blame him if he walks in a couple years. These owners need to know when to just let go and hire and delegate and understand that you might be good at money, but you're not good at running an NBA organization. So it's time to find the GMs you can trust, find the guys that you can trust to scout, and find those guys that can help create a roster that can win you championships. That is the end of the Ashley Neville Show. Thank you so much for tuning in to my second episode. Be sure to send me questions, topics you want me to go over. I pretty much cover a whole wide range of things. I do have 2 big interviews coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. And until next time, thank you for joining.